Defending in eFootball gets much easier when you know what to do. Here are 4 tips that will help you defend better instantly. Tip number 1, when to press and when to use matchup. Listen carefully, because this is the foundation of good defending in eFootball. Pressing works best when you're already close to the ball carrier. If you're within a short distance where you can step in cleanly and win the ball, then pressing is perfect. But if you try to press from far away, a good player will beat you almost every single time. You'll either get dribbled, dragged out of position, or open a passing lane behind you. So, whenever possible, don't press from far. Press only when you're close enough to actually win the ball. On the other hand, matchup works best when you're not close to the ball carrier. If there is distance between you and him, matchup helps you stay balanced, delay the attack, and position yourself to block passing lanes. Matchup gives you a better angle, more control, and a higher chance of intercepting his pass. Now let's break down the exact situations where matchup works best and when pressing is what will actually save you. Matchup is most effective when your defender is already in position, especially when he's covering or blocking the passing lane. If your line is settled, organized, and not still chasing back. When your defense is organized and positioned correctly, matchup allows you to delay the attack and make it harder for the opponent to find space. It also works very well on the wing, especially when you're dealing with a skilled dribbler. Instead of rushing in and risking a bad tackle, matchup lets your defenders contain the player. Also, when you're close to your box, it's safer to use matchup. Pressing inside your box can be extremely dangerous. If you try to use pressure that close to your goal, you leave very little room for error. One small mistake can result in a goal. That's why it's safer to rely on matchup in these situations. Now, when should you use pressure? You use pressure when you're trying to stop someone from breaking into your defense. When your defensive line is out of shape, or when there's no one covering the lane the striker is running into. In these situations, matchup is too slow, it keeps you tracking instead of chasing. That usually leads to disaster. Pressure gives your defender a better chance to use his speed to actually close the gap, catch up with the attacker, and snuff out the danger. Bottom line, stop trying to chase attackers with matchup. The button literally says dash plus pressure. There's no point stressing about fast defenders if you won't even let them run. Watch this clip. I start off using matchup to delay the attack. But then I step out and switch to press, trying to steal the ball from Mbappe. He manages to dribble past me, so I switch back to matchup to stay in the play, and I'm able to intercept the ball with Cook Chu. The opponent wins it back and the attack comes again. When Mbappe breaks into my defense, I switch to press once more to quickly close him down and recover the ball. At this point, there's nothing left to say. Tip number 2, use call for pressure properly. Especially when you're defending with matchup, call for pressure becomes your best friend. I'll give you 3 scenarios where you must use call for pressure because you cannot spam it. Scenario 1, when your controlled defender is too far away or is busy covering a passing lane but you must press. In this situation, I would just match up and contain. But here, Kvaratskhelia is a blitz caller, and 1 extra second of freedom can easily become a goal. So I used call for pressure for Cannavaro to close him down, while Rijkaard stayed disciplined and continued covering the passing lane. This is your best weapon against blitz curlers. Now watch this. My opponent here was very good at playing through the wings. When I anticipated the blitz curler, he just went for a cross. But the moment I expected the cross, he immediately cut inside and went for the blitz curler instead. On top of that, he was extremely good at combining his winger with his fullback. I had to use call for pressure to double up on him every single time. Whenever the ball went to the wing, I instantly used call for pressure. This is exactly the type of situation where call for pressure is essential. I lost this match 2-1, but honestly, I really enjoyed it. I was beginning to think I was the only one who knew how to use the wings properly in eFootball. Another scenario is when you're not in danger, but you want to stop your opponent from building anything. Call for pressure isn't only for emergency defending. Sometimes, the best use of it is when nothing dangerous has happened yet, and you want to keep it that way. There are moments when your opponent is trying to settle on the ball, maybe looking to pass, turn, or just trying to build momentum. Early pressure helps you shut the attack down before it develops into a real chance. It forces your opponent to rush decisions, make mistakes, or pass backwards. And finally, when you're actually under pressure. This is the riskiest time to use call for pressure, but sometimes it's the only thing that saves you. When your opponent is already close to your box, maybe he's trying to play a quick 1-2, or maybe he's backing your goal and trying to turn to face forward, these are the moments where call for pressure can break the move before it becomes a real chance. This scenario works best when you see the play developing. But you need to be careful. The biggest mistake here is using call for pressure when the attacker still has space to run into, especially when your defensive line is already high. If he has space in front of him, dragging a defender out will almost guarantee a goal because he'll just accelerate past both players. Finally, remember that call for pressure always leaves gaps. Applying it here would be wrong because Rijkaard was the closest player to Paul Scholes, and he's the one who would have stepped out, leaving this runner completely free. Tip number 3, defend according to your play style. Listen carefully because this is where everything we've talked about comes together. Now, if you are using quick counter, possession game, or even out wide, then you already know that your defense line will be very high and most times out of shape. So in this case, you have to realize that automatically it's best to use pressure button most of the time. That is your default defending button whenever you lose the ball. Why? Because when your line is that high, your defenders are always close to the opponent's attackers. So it's easier to press and win the ball from that short distance, and it also helps you react quickly to someone running behind your defense. That said, always remember that when running back, your direction must always be facing your goal or else your CB might rush out and leave you exposed. I'll make a video specifically on pressing mistakes, so stay tuned. On the other hand, if you are using long ball or long ball counter, the reverse is the case. With these play styles, whenever you lose the ball, there are usually two scenarios. If your defense line is already in position, your defenders automatically sit back and protect their goal. They don't try to come out and win the ball. But if your defense line is out of position, your defenders automatically run backwards to get back in position. Either way, this creates distance. And like I already said in tip 1, pressing from a distance does not end well most of the time. When you are using these play styles, your default defending should always be the matchup. Now remember, you can't just copy everything I've said word for word. The best players take advice, read the situation in front of them, and then apply it accordingly. And this is what you must do. Tip number 4, don't joke with your midfield. Listen carefully because this is why pay-to-win players dominate. Now, everyone loves using midfielders with good technique, the ones who can shoot, pass and dribble. And that's great, but especially if you're free to play, you don't always get the full package. So make sure you choose midfielders who react fast when you lose the ball, track back quickly, position themselves to help your defense. This might sound simple, but it can genuinely change your defending. Now, most pay-to-win midfielders are very good across all stats, both going forward and defending, so you can attack freely without sacrificing defensive structure. But very few free-to-play players can boast of that same balance. Because of that, you may need to sacrifice some creativity for defensive solidity. Your anchorman is not supposed to be the first player to start the press. You need at least one more midfielder who can step up, apply pressure, and delay attacks before they hit your defensive line. And for that midfielder to be effective, his defensive stats need to be at least 70 or very close to that. Anything below that and he becomes a passenger when you lose the ball. You don't need 3 creative mids. You need balance. Now, another really important part of this conversation is your midfielder's playing style. But this video is already getting long, so I'll save that for another breakdown. If you like this kind of content, subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.